Welcome to another Thursdays with RamDev. What do Living Dying Project volunteers actually do? We, at the Living Dying Project, we offer free of charge, one-to-one emotional, spiritual support to people with life-threatening illnesses. There are people that take the training that I facilitate. They become volunteers. We match volunteers up with clients. What do the volunteers do? And the answer is, it's completely individual. That we're basically matching up meditators with people who are probably dying pretty soon. Not necessarily. There are miracles, and sometimes we're working with grieving people instead of dying people. But we're matching up people with life-threatening illnesses and meditators for their mutual benefit. So the volunteers are doing this for their own practice, their own awakening. They're not there, I'm going to help you, but I'm here to awaken. And the form that takes is very, very individual. I remember once we had just this lovely, lovely client. He was dying of AIDS. And all he wanted to do with his volunteer was eat chocolate ice cream and talk about life. He didn't want support. He didn't want meditation instruction or something. I mean, certainly sometimes people do want meditation instruction. Sometimes people want to talk about their fear of death. Sometimes people just want to have some connectedness with somebody who's not afraid so they can be present for all of that. But really, it's a process between the client and the volunteer where how present can each of them be, and then in that presence, allowing connection and relationship to come out of that. So that what do Living Dying Project volunteers do? It's not so much different from what I hope that you're doing in your close relationships in your life. How connected can you be? How spacious can you be? How compassionate can you be? How generous can you be? And certainly there are tricks, there are attitudes that we talk about in the training, Tonglen, Powa, the Ah-breath, compassion, other compassion practices, embodied mindfulness, working with mantra, working with tantra, all the usual spiritual practices and attitudes can be brought to the encounter with life-threatening illness. But at the same time, for the volunteer to be able to go beyond seeing the client as a dying person, quote unquote, or a cancer patient, quote unquote, or a grieving person, quote unquote, and just be with this human being who's in this extreme situation. Often when people are dying, they report to me that they get kind of lonely because people are seeing them as a dying person. They're not seeing them as them. They're just seeing the identity, the outer package, because that client, that dying person, is representing the fact that they're going to die themselves. So people don't want to get too close to that, and it's easier to get fixated on the identities. So whether the patient, the client is dying or is really sick or they're grieving or whatever stage they are in all of this, it's the work of the volunteer to keep seeing God in that human being. Somebody asked Maharaji, what's the best form to worship God? He said, every form is the best form to worship God. That's what we try to do.